On.
Hello, everybody. My name is Bruce Montgomery, and this is my colleague, Tracy Priest.
Good morning.
Say hello, Tracy.
Hello.
And we're with the Road to Retail. Tracy and I hope to offer tips, insights, and examples of how small and emerging brands can graduate from the farmers market or their very local retail stores and move forward out into the world of the large retailers. We hope to help you figure out to know when you're ready, whether you can prove it online, how to approach a retailer, etc. Along the way, we hope to help you avoid many of the steps that Tracy and I fell into earlier in our career. Tracy?
Yeah, so Bruce and I have been in commercial operations and consumer products industry for 30 plus years. And what we mean by commercial operations is sales, marketing, broker management, distributor management, managing marketing, etc. So that's our background. And again, like Bruce said, we're just here to share our insights with you and key learnings. And today we're so honored to have Dawn Kelley with us today. I had the opportunity to work with Dawn on the Barney Butter brand early in my career, and just loved the brand. And we're just happy to have you today, Dawn. So welcome to Road to Retail podcast. And let's just open up and maybe just share a little bit about yourself, and also about how maybe you got into this crazy world of consumer packaged goods. Welcome, Dawn.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you guys for having me. I'm honored. And I will start by saying that Tracy was amazing to work with, and he helped us get to where we are today, and as a very important team member for several years. So thank you for that. And thank you for reaching out to me.
Dawn, he's going to be insufferable for the rest of the week. My goodness.
He should be.
No.
I mean, he's kind of earned the right to be insufferable, but so thank you for having me. And as Tracy said, I'm the CEO and president of Barney Butter, and I have been in this job, this role, this life for 12 years. And I think that's the longest I've been in any one role throughout my career. And it's been amazing and fun. And I think along the way, the people that I've met and gotten to know has by far been the best part of it, just from an industry standpoint. But having said that, I was not always in this industry, and CPG was new to me when I started with Barney Butter 12 years ago. I actually had come from technology and was in the horse race industry, was my last job in technology. Before that, I was with orbits.com and careerbuilder.com in various roles. But my last position was in manufacturing for both hardware and software. So Barney Butter is a manufacturer. We make our own almond butter. So I think that there was some really good experiences and learnings that I had from that role that made coming into the CPG world as a manufacturer a little bit easier than it would have been otherwise. But so we have been at this for about 12 years. We bought Barney Butter when it was a tiny little company, and my husband and his best friend and I have been the owners for 12 years. We started off very, very small, hundreds of thousands in revenue. And we've grown the brand into the #3 brand in the country at this point.
That's awesome.
Dang.
Congratulations on that, Dawn. Well deserved. A lot of hard work.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you.
have a lot of blue label Barney Butter in our pantry.
That would be smooth. Yeah, classic smooth. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because that is a key way that people identify Barney Butter. So, from a name recognition, we would all like to be a Coke or McDonald's, where, everybody in the world has heard the name of your brand and remembers it. But for Barney Butter, when people say, oh, is that the blue label? Is that the green label? That's very much how they identify our brand on shelf.
Well, that's great. Your packaging is your 24/7 salesperson closing the last 3 feet, right?
It is. It is.
So
And
Dawn, when you guys took over the business and you were very small, what kind of checklist did you and your teammates run through in your mind to say, okay, we're ready to grow, but we have to be really wise in our bets because we don't have a ton of cash? So what's that checklist you would run through before you either expanded or created another SKU? What would you do?
yeah, that's a really good question, because this industry, I think, has changed a lot in the last 12 years. When we first started out, there was very much a focus on top line revenue across the board from a success, like what measures success in this industry. And it was very much top line revenue, not net revenues, not EBITDA, not cash. And so the focus was kind of like grow as fast as you can. And it's not that we didn't do that, we did, but we also had to keep an eye on our cash and run the business like we were going to own it forever, because we are not backed by private equity. We've not gone out and raised money in that way. So everything was very much done internally from a funding growth standpoint. So in the beginning, you're wanting to get as much rapid distribution as you can, get in as many doors as you can. And we did that, but because we had to kind of hold on to our cash and make sure we were a healthy business, we were somewhat forced to do it what I now think is kind of the right way. And we, I think, lucked into that, which is we had exponential growth within certain banners and stores, and we demonstrated success there, like Publix. We invested heavily early on in demos. And I know demos are a totally different beast today than they were 12 years ago, but we invested heavily. We're the #1 brand in Publix still today. And so we focused that way instead of trying to kind of boil the ocean, if you will, and get it all out there, because growth doesn't matter if it's just going into new doors and there's no sell through and you don't have the numbers, and then you get discontinued, and then you just spend all that money on slotting and you're never going to get that back. So healthy growth, I think, is the main.
So let's go one level deeper there, if you don't mind. So you mentioned Publix. Did you guys decide on the type of retailer you wanted to work with, or did you try to really build out from one geography so that your marketing dollars could be more concentrated and work harder for you? How did you guys, once let's say Publix was your first big success, how did you guys go through the mental checklist again of who's next?
Right. So that's interesting, because Barney Butter is a little different in the sense. So so everybody who's listening knows, as I mentioned before, we're the #3 brand. We're the largest independently owned brand. #1 is owned by Hormel. #2 is owned by Hanes Celestial. So really big public company, CPGs. And then there's Barney Butter. So trying to claw our way to #2 and compete with them. But when we got involved with Barney Butter 12 years ago, the brand had not followed, and it was very small. I mean, don't get me wrong, but it had already kind of gone into conventional grocery before growing in natural. And that was the opposite plan as most almond butters at the time. Right. Most almond butters at the time got really good distribution through natural stores, co-ops, that sort of thing. And then they took those success stories to conventional retail. And Tracy knows this because he's been to meetings with me and everything else. So it's kind of part of our story that we did it kind of opposite. And while we had a little bit of distribution locally in California where we manufacture our product, in natural, we really got started in conventional first and did it backwards. And for that reason, having that really good success story whether it be at Kroger or Publix or wherever, and being able to replicate that and go talk to buyers at other stores is very important. But to your point, I think the right way from a financial standpoint has to be more focused, whether it be by retailer or by geography, because if you are trying to grow a brand from a small brand and you're trying to grow it to a national brand, the expense of the demos and the marketing and the social and the driving the traffic is overwhelming. And so in order to see significant movement, what I call like a lever instead of a knob, you almost have to focus singularly for particular retailers that fit your demographic. So some retailers, it all depends on your product. So we're an almond butter, and 12 years ago, that consumer looked very different than that consumer looks today. It's definitely more of a mainstream product. But if you have a retailer, and I'm not going to name any names, but the max ACV that you're going to get on an almond butter may be 55% because their store demographics don't match your particular product that you're putting in there, then that's not going to be a store that you focus on. You're going to want to partner with a Publix or a Kroger or a Sprouts or a Whole Foods or whoever it may be. And any store that I'm not mentioning, forgive me, but I can't mention all of them. But you have to focus on the stores where their consumer is more likely to buy your product.
Mhm.
That's so perfect and spot on, Dawn. Two things I want to just emphasize again with our audience, and that Bruce and I talk about a lot, is being targeted. Retailers not wanting, we've worked on brands where I want to be everywhere. I want to be everything to everybody. And what you're saying is you can't be, or you're going to struggle. And the other thing that you really said that was well put is that it's not about sell in, it's about sell through.
That's right.
And that's another, as Bruce calls it, one of our bumper stickers at Road to Retail, is you really have got to make sure that the product sells on the shelf, or you're going to be discontinued and you've wasted all that slotting money. So you've really got to have a marketing plan and a support plan with the retailer to be successful.
That's right. And to add to that, I mean, knowing the data, I mean, if you're not buying data, you're, flying an airplane with no panel. I mean, you have to invest in the data. It's painful, it's expensive, but I've talked to brands that get very excited because they have this crazy growth in the data, but when you dig, it's all new distribution, and so when you wait 52 weeks and you go back and you see it may not necessarily be the same story, so focusing on new distribution without the marketing support locally it can be done. I mean, for sure. It's just harder, I think.
Yeah. So that leads into the next question. So maybe tell our audience from all your key learnings is what's the number one mistake you would tell our audience of small emerging brands to make sure that they avoid?
Yeah, I think early diversification of your product. So I always say that our biggest mistakes are some of our most delicious mistakes, because when you launch a brand, everybody knows this, that you have a few successful SKUs and you're doing really well. And then the next question is, all right, what else you got? What else are you bringing to me, and what other new exciting things are in the pipeline? And there's very much a focus on innovation and going into another aisle and creating new products and having the strength to say no internally to that and really maximize your core products before doing that is really important. I mean, it's everything. It's cash. It bleeds your cash. It takes marketing effort, especially if it's a product that requires consumer education. So I have two stories there. So early on, like I said, we've grown into the number 3 slot and we're gaining. So we have our sights on number 2. But in the beginning, we were the 8th brand, we were the 9th brand, and we were trying to compete for shelf space with these other big companies that frankly had been around longer than us and had a story already built, and we were still trying to build our story. So the buyers, because the category was not as mature as it is today, the buyers were very interested in new and different. And so we launched flavors, and we had delicious flavors. We had espresso vanilla, you remember these, honey and flax, cocoa coconut, and a raw and chia product. And they were amazing and they were delicious. What happened was certain retailers would say, okay, well, I already have a bunch of smooth, crunchy, well, actually not that many crunchies because we're one of the only crunchies, but I already have all the basics, right, covered. But I'm really interested in that espresso vanilla and the honey and flax. So I'm going to bring those 2 in, right? Not our core products, the flavors. So not the products that have the sell through, not the products that are the pantry staples that people buy every single week, but these obscure, delicious flavors that taste good, but people just are not going to, fly through a jar of espresso vanilla at the same rate that they do the blue jar, our smooth, or the clear jar, our Barney Bear, that is really great for cooking and recipes and very, very versatile. So we figured out there's an expression in the ice cream category, which is vanilla, vanilla, vanilla. Vanilla always outsells every other flavor from the beginning of time and probably always will. And that applies a little bit to our category as well, in the sense that the more versatile the SKU, the more it's going to turn and the more success you're going to have on the shelf. So we ended up discontinuing most of those flavors.
When you discontinued the espresso, that was like one of my favorite.
We do, we're trying to do annual flash sales now. So we'll make a run and we'll sell it online and, send it to everybody on our newsletter, because we do still get emails all the time. Like, how can I get my hands on this? And so that's why I call them delicious mistakes. But that's something, live and learn, right? I mean, we didn't know and we had to figure it out. So now we focus on our core products at retail. And we have really 5 core SKUs, and that's what we want every single set to look like. And once we have that set on shelf, then we'll entertain bringing maybe other SKUs on that. But we really want all retailers to have our core 5. And I think it's a good idea to know what your core products are that is going to work, and focus on that.
Yeah. That's awesome. Great advice. Bruce, she's talking exactly what you preach about. Don't have 10 flavors or 10 SKUs of something and,
Well, and even worse are other categories, which, to use Dawn's phrase, will go unnamed, that end up creating a billion SKUs because one account wants to hit a price point. So you do something that's 26 ounces and then another one wants another price point. So that's 23.5. And then your ops people get out their Bruce voodoo doll and they're like, what are you doing to us? This is about as inefficient as it could possibly be.
Yeah.
So Dawn, I want to touch on something you already mentioned briefly that you guys have not done, and that comes to funding. Lots of people in this industry and that Tracy and I deal with, and I'm sure reach out to you, is they'll say like, hey, Dawn, how did you guys grow this from the tiny company you bought to here? How much money did you take? How much, and I know you just said, haven't taken any. Mm-hmm. If the day came where you and your partners wanted to really look at that, what do you think that checklist would look like? What would you be looking for in an investor? And what reason might really force you to reach outside for money? Would it be to really scale growth? Would it be to make a second plant on the East Coast? I'm making this stuff up, but what would you look for?
All really good ideas, by the way, but yeah.
Yeah, but what would you really look for in that investor to make sure that 6 months after closing, you're not going, oh my gosh, what have I done?
Yeah. again, I don't think there's one right or wrong way to do this, right? There's a lot of different ways. And we've been lucky in the sense that this has been somewhat a friends and family business. We're more formalized now from a board standpoint, from a reporting standpoint. We do have an external board member now. We didn't always. And so, I think one of I wish I would have done differently things along the way would have been to build an internal advisory board or board from the get-go. Because I think when you talk about fundraising, when you talk about growth, you really need some bench of expertise to help guide you in different perspectives and different experiences. For that reason, when you're looking at taking on external money, I believe that it should be money that is strategic in some way, that is going to help you achieve your goals and not just money, with nothing behind it in terms of industry experience or help that can be brought to the table. Because I wouldn't necessarily want a board of just financial people that are very, very smart people, but haven't been in the trenches of what I'm doing every single day and able to provide valuable insights and share the landmines that they've already stepped on. Because I am the first person to want to learn from what mistakes other people have made, because like I said, there's no one right way to do this. I mean, everybody talks about riding the ramp and this, year over year, growth of 100 to 150%. And those are unicorns, right? But we all need help in terms of maximizing or optimizing the ability that we have with our brand. So I do think it's important to have the strategic money versus just cash on hand for that reason.
No, that makes total sense. And that's another thing that we see a lot is you don't want to just take the check. You want to take the check from people that can tell you how they worked through supply disruptions or how they survived a big discontinuation or they've, managed outside agencies, and this is how you vet them. So that makes a lot of sense. Tracy?
Yeah. So one last question, Dawn, before we wrap up here is, tell us your greatest success. What are you most proud of?
I think that growing this brand, as I mentioned before, my husband and I and his best friend bought this brand from a family friend when it was very, 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 very small. And so growing the brand to where we are today, while competing with these big CPGs that have much bigger budgets and staff and everything else to do it, that's what I'm most proud of. Having said that, I don't know if I can really take full responsibility for it. The fact is, we have an amazing product and it sells itself when people taste our product. And so our philosophy has always been try to get the product to as many people to try as possible, because they will buy the product and they'll buy it again and again. And we have data that shows our repeat purchase is higher than a lot of brands, and we're very proud of that because that's a testament to the product itself. So it's a matter of creating enough opportunities for the consumer to become aware of the brand, to try the brand, and that's been challenging the last 2 years. Obviously, I mean, there's been a lot of challenges occurring in this space, whether it be COVID or supply chain issues or freight and inflation and everything else. I mean, we're all like playing whack-a-mole with all the issues coming at us every single day. But the main thing that we ask ourselves from a marketing standpoint, the filter that I use is this allowing the consumer to try our product? And if it is, then great, then let's do it. Because we just know that that's where we have the most success.
So without being a downer, what would be the one do-over you wish you could do?
The one do-over, it's really hard to launch a product that requires a lot of consumer education, and being first to market with a product seems like a really great idea, right? But it's hard, and it takes a lot of money, and educating the consumer on a product that they don't inherently know is tough. I mean, we were first to market with our powdered almond butter, which is being kind of rebranded right now to almond protein powder, which is a single ingredient, very clean almond protein powder. But we were the first to market with it. And so you already had a lot of peanut butter powders on the market when we came in. And so the assumption is, oh, well, the consumer knows what to do with a powdered product, but what we didn't factor in as much as we should have is that there may not be a lot of crossover between the peanut butter consumer and the almond butter consumer. Therefore, they're not necessarily educated on what that product is. And then also, because we're a peanut-free facility, as I mentioned earlier, we're a self-manufacturer. And so we only process almonds, right? So we have a built-in consumer, a very loyal built-in consumer that buys our product because they know it's safe for peanut allergies. And so that means they were even less familiar with the peanut butter powder products, So if I had a do-over, it's a wonderful product. It's still on shelf. We're the #1 almond powder on the shelf in the category. But if I had a do-over, I would really do a much bigger push on consumer education on that product, I think. And then the other thing is getting back to building that advisory board right out of the gate when I was a young brand, for sure.
Yep, both great points, because we all get so close to the stuff we work on that we think everyone understands it, and you can never cut short the value of education. And one of the best lines I've ever had a buyer say to me about a brand was, the person said, "Tell me something I couldn't possibly already know about your brand or category."
That's awesome.
And I was like, damn, that's a doozy. Okay. All right, Tracy, I think we're ready for the big finish to let Dawn go.
Absolutely. So Dawn, if people want to reach out to you, how do they reach out to you?
I'm on LinkedIn, and I am also available at dawn@barneybutter.com. Very easy email to figure out and remember. So yeah, I mean, I love networking with people in this industry. I work with a lot of emerging brands on a very casual basis. I, have talked to a lot of people as they are getting started, and believe that it's very important to help those kind of coming up behind you as well. And would always hope that people in front of me would give me the same help. So anyway, this has been wonderful. Thank you all so much.
No, thank you, Dawn. We've really enjoyed having you. And I just, for the final close, just please follow us on our LinkedIn page, Road to Retail, or also on our YouTube page, Road to Retail. And thanks for joining us again, Dawn. And we really enjoyed having you, and look for this posting here tomorrow.
Thank you, Dawn. Good luck out there, everybody.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you.